Hi everyone, delonewolf here. Welcome to another EVE Online video, and in today's video I want to discuss transportation. Now the reason I'm making this video is because I think that with the Citadel expansion and the possibility of the Citadel trade hubs disrupting the major trade hubs in the game at the moment, there is a good chance that because of the tax advantage we'll see much more of a spread out market throughout the game. I think there is a good chance that transportation could become even more important than it is already. And I wanted to give you guys a bit of an overview of what we use for our transportations here in Co Incorporated. Now it's definitely not perfect the way we do it, but what I'm mostly hoping for is that it can give newer players an idea of what type of options they have, and that it's not always about the biggest possible cargo hold. So there are definitely trade-offs to keep in mind whenever you are considering your transport ships. So let's start with the biggest one, of course. Pretty much the end game in HiSec, you would go for a freighter. Now surprisingly enough, we don't use the freighter that much. The freighter for us, with a pretty awesome cargo hold at the moment here of 356,000 cubic meters. I'll show you the fitting here as well. I fit it for most HP possible. If you have a corp mate or an alt that can help you with webbing, you can go for a different fit that jumps much faster than mine does, but this is basically for getting stuff solo from point A to point B. But it is a pretty big magnet for suicide gangs. So we are limiting this mostly to ship transport. So whenever we produce ships, those tend to be pretty damn big and bulky, and so we transport those to the sell points in the obelisk, or when we're doing like a really big sell-off of our minerals. We do mine a lot more than we produce, and so as a result, when we have like 400-500 million in minerals that we're probably not going to need, then we can transport those in the obelisk as well. But you definitely don't want to transport billions of ISK in an obelisk or in a freighter either, because these are easily recognizable, of course, and there are a lot of people, especially around the trade hubs, on the lookout for you whenever you're transporting a trader. In my experience, I've been chain bumped by Macariel once, so he managed to keep me out of warp for as long as he wanted. Maybe with a speedier fit it would not have been possible, but that did happen. Luckily I had like maybe 800 million. It was mostly just parts for the boss, so they left me alone. So if you don't take too much, they'll scan you down and see, well, this is probably not worth the effort, so we're not going to suicide gank you. That is one thing to keep in mind. But we mostly use the freighter for transporting ships and transporting big batches of minerals to a sell point. Now the next ship that we use a decent amount of is the one I'm calling Tube here, and this is actually the riskiest ship. It's also one that I lost once. I lost one Iteron Mark V to a suicide gang. The reason though is because I was AFK, so a big mistake on my part, but it does happen. And this is an Iteron Mark V that is fit for maximum cargo capacity. So we've got cargo hold optimizations in the rigs, and we have full expanded cargo holds in the low slots. Here we've got some shield mods. You may even be able to eke out a little bit more HP than this with a better fit. But yeah, it's definitely not about the tank. This is about speed and capacity. So this Iteron here has 37,000 cubic meters, quite respectable, but of course you don't haul anything valuable in this. So this is what we use for regular trades of our minerals. As we mine a decent amount in HiSec, we definitely have a pretty big surplus of tritanium, pyrite and mexalon, but that's really all we feel comfortable in transporting in a paper thin ship like this one. And this is also our fuel dedicated ship. So POS fuels are actually pretty damn bulky, and so when we want to fuel for a few weeks, we do take the Iteron Mark V here for its capacity and its decent speed compared to a freighter. For me, the hard rule is never more than 200 million in value in this one. It usually hovers around 100 million. And yeah, this one is something that I think anyone can definitely consider, just because of how good it could also be for, this can still enter even a C1 wormhole. So it is really useful. It has really big cargo, but keep one thing in mind, you are paper thin, and so you don't want to move anything expensive in this ship. If you lose one, there's nothing you can do about that, and so you don't want that to become like a major loss. In my experience, there are just a lot of these, and so the chance that someone is going to gank you without first checking what's in the cargo bay is probably pretty slim. After that, we keep going smaller here, but this is the real workhorse for us in Co-Incorporated, and that is this baby right here. We call it Fast TB, and it's a Reef, right? A Minmatar transport ship. This fit is actually a fit that my brother put together, and this is all about speed with a decent cargo hold. So we have some low friction nozzle here, hyperspace velocity optimizer, and one cargo hold optimization, so you can see it's a little bit of everything so that it doesn't conflict too much. Then over here we've got nanofiber structures, then we've got 2 expanded cargo holds and 1 inertial stabilizer, and then of course we do have a bit of a shield tank to plug the shield gap and give ourselves a bit more HP. This is a very fast and very nimble ship with 6,000 cubic meters of cargo hold. What we use this for mostly is loot. So this is the transport ship that we use to get into Nullsec, into Providence, because it is so fast. Even on camps, especially in HighSec, no one is going to have the time to actually stop you in this one. So we use this for loot, Tech 2 salvage, loot that we find in wormhole space, stuff that we gather in Nullsec. If we have to transport that in and out, it's also all about this Wraith. And maybe I'll quickly undock this one just to show you that this is a fast ship. This is about agility, which of course the Minmatar ships are pretty good at, and it's all about speed. So let's say that I quickly want to head over to my POS. I would just press Detal. You can see we've got really a pretty good speed and agility at turning, and then we'll be in warp in no time. To decide to gank a Wraith in the time it took me here to go into warp is something that very few gankers I think will actually risk doing, and as a result this is where I would say we put our intermediate value stuff. So we can definitely have stuff like sleeper loot and salvage, Tech 2 salvage, good loot drops that are worth a few million, exploration loot as well from the combat sites, you know, any faction goods that are not worth 100 million, let's say 20-30 million, some of the average stuff. We definitely move all of that in this Wraith, and let me quickly jump over to the POS just to give you an idea. Look at how fast I'm accelerating here, and boom, I'm already in warp. So this ship is really fast. It's also extremely cheap. This only costs a few $100,000 ISK. The fitting in Tech 2 is a little bit more, but you can downgrade that to a Tech 1. And this is what we use most of the time, especially when we go into Nullsec and when we have stuff that is like worth just a little bit more than the stuff we move in the Terran Mark V and in the freighter, of course, which is mostly very low-end minerals. So that's also something we move in here. It's the higher-end minerals when we have extra isogen, when we have extra noxium, when we did a good mining batch in Nullsec and we get some megasite in Zydrine to trade. All of that stuff is moved right here in the Wraith. So let's quickly jump back into SSKama. I just wanted to quickly show you guys the speed and the agility of this Wraith fit. It's my brother that came up with it, and it's a very good balance between speed, agility, and still somewhat of a cargo hold that's going to haul a decent amount if you really need to. So with this, we're not afraid to go into the few hundred millions of ISK, especially if it's a HighSec transport, because no one is really going to catch you in this ship. So it's pretty damn good to have a Wraith for that, at least in our experience, of course. There are obviously other transport ships that can do the exact same thing. You can play around with the fits a little bit, but for us this is the workhorse of transportation in Co-incorporated, a speedy Reef. And then finally, it's not a transport ship, but I think it's really important that you invest in one of these. I'm calling it Skippy, and that is an Interceptor, of course. It is like extremely fast. It's immune to bubbles, so for Nullsec, for very valuable stuff, this is our go-to ship. This is where we move blueprints in. This is what we use to move like the high-end faction stuff that we can find in exploration, like some of those energized membranes can be worth more than 100 million, things like that. That's what we move in something like this right here. I've built this one for speed here, again with the inertial stabilizers. We've got friction nozzles here. Then I've got both a micro-warp drive and an afterburner. If you do get caught in a gate camp, you can still try to burn for the gate. I also have a little bit of a cloaking device. This one is really built for speed and evasion. And that's basically what I use for the very valuable transports where I absolutely don't want to lose whatever it is that I'm moving. Then it is an Interceptor. And yeah, that's I guess the lesson that I want to bring in this video to like newer players that may want to get into industry, that may want to get into research, into mining possibly. You have to take the right tool for the right job. You don't always take just your biggest transport ship, wait for that one to be completely filled up and then move all your stuff to a single point. No, you have to have different tools, different ships, depending on the situation, depending on what you're moving, where you're moving it to. All of that is very, very important if you want to minimize the risk of losses through suicide gangs. And for us, honestly, I've been suicide ganged once because I went AFK, so really my own stupid fault. And I've been bumped, but not suicide ganged in the freighter just once. And that's really all the risky situations that I've encountered in my playtime of playing EVE Online so far. So I would say that, yeah, if you do it a little bit smart and you're not afraid to sometimes do 2 trips instead of 1 risky trip, then you should be able to transport stuff safely. And I'm expecting with the Citadel expansion that transportation is going to be even more important than it already is. So I'm hoping that this video can be useful for some of you newer players out there. Anyways, that's what I wanted to share with you guys for this one. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.